All right, welcome to the wiring room YouTube tour. So I'll kind of just take you through what all we've got in here. We're just going to go around the room clockwise from over here and kind of talk about what we got. So we do a fair bit of 3D printing just to check if something fits before we get it machined. So just this morning we were printing some wheel templates to check with A12 wheels that we had the right sizes. Next is kind of the work area here. So I primarily do my wiring sitting at this chair. There's not a second monitor right now because it went to Mid-Ohio with half of my tools, but there's a new floating arm monitor coming tomorrow. So that will help quite a bit with productivity in here. I can take the computer right off the table and still have all the information I need to wire. And here's kind of the inventory that we stock. So up here we have just some miscellaneous stuff. Right now it's got the ProWire like molded boots for the DTM socket side. They've been okay. They work well in a non-critical application that you want to look nice. So I use them for that kind of thing. Here's one actually in this harness, if I can learn how to film. And I just back booted it with some ATUM there to give it a little bit more sealing. But this is just a spares plug that will be exposed to the elements, but that'll work for that pretty well. Then below we have the entire DTM, DT, and DP inventory pretty much. So, each one that's 2, and then that's the wedges, and that's 3, and then that's the wedges, and so on, down to DT 4, 6, 8, and 12 are in there, and then the DP 2 and 4 are in there. And then up here is the heat shrink that I use kind of the most commonly. So the 316 SCL is probably the main one here for covering up splices inside of a harness. And then, one of these 4, depending on what I've been doing on that harness so far, for things like, there we go, for covering up this crimp right here, or for terminating a wire that doesn't need a boot. I think everything on this, there's one right there. So here's the interior spares plug where we just use some SCL to cover up the end of the wiring there so that it's a little bit more weatherproof. And we've got this harness here on the table where I am just going through and making sure that everything so far is working. Just got the dowel pad working. So I think I can use the dowel pad to change the screens. Yeah, so you can see the screen there change with that. And then one of these will be the brightness toggle. I can't remember what I've got, but one of them is the brightness toggle. And then here's the steering wheel that we're going to use. We've got 4 rotary position sensors here that will communicate with Motec, and then for 8 buttons. I think 6 of those buttons are over CAN. But yeah, it's everything that we need will be right there for controlling the car, except for maybe we'll put start stop on the rotary panel so that it's a little further away. We'll have to decide all that. But back to the wiring room. Next is our wire inventory. So, there's 2 ways to do wiring in terms of keeping track of your colors and which wire goes to what. You can use all one color, or what I prefer, and use like idents or just pin it out when you get back to the main connector. But I really prefer whenever I can to have one color per kind of wire or per signal wire or whatever. And so I have a really big inventory here. We have shielded cable in 24 and 22, 2 and 3 wire, and with or without a drain wire. We've got pre-twisted wire for CAN signals. And then we've got 24 in the solid colors, 24 stripes, coming down to 22 for the rest in all of the different striped colors. Then we have both, battery cable style, thicker wire, and also Tesfel power wire, depending on which kind of job we're doing. And I think there's actually some more high power wire out in the shop. That's not all of it. Then we have the spooled DR25 here. And there's actually like another back stockpile of DR25 over there in the corner. So we're set to do quite a few projects out of our inventory there. And then the second shelf has 20 on the first 2 rolls, 18 after that, and then a little bit of 16, 14, and 12. Although, to be honest, we don't really use a ton of those in anything we do. The Super Lap Battle car will have some 14 going to the fuel system, but not too much. We do our best to actually measure currents and do the math to figure out what size wire that we need. And you'll find that a ton of the time, the wires that people commonly use are much too big for the application. I have in here a little 12-volt generator that from my drone hobby in the past. So if I want to power up this harness right here, like I can use that, so I don't have to bring a battery in here. This guy, Race Spec sold these, I think, and I'm really happy to use this. It makes cutting the heat shrink for the end of the wires go super well and have nice sharp angles. So let's see if I can demonstrate it here, or if this just gets cut from my video in the end. So see, you get a way more perpendicular cut than you would get if you use scissors. So I've been using that whenever I can. And then got the soldering station over there, just for potting sensors or anything that we can't get connectors for, that the OEM connectors like Honda coil plugs aren't that great to crimp yourself. So typically pot those back to Motorsport. And then on this side, we have the slightly less pretty side of the shop, but it's still important. Over here is general inventory. So we've got shirts, we've got reduction boots, and then we've got the standard 202 and 222K boots over here in each size. We've got just some of my stuff on that top shelf, and then we've got electrical testing stuff, aim cables, some stickers like fire and electrical kill switch stickers, more aim cables, communication stuff. This box just has some other kind of general sensors and devices that aren't new or aren't our favorite brand, but they come in a pinch if we need to fix something, if we need to add a potentiometer somewhere. We've got that in stock. We have down here a collection of ASL, not good at the camera. We have a collection of ASL stuff in all the different key colors. And we have the overflow of the heat shrink. So we have just what didn't fit in the toolbox. And then there's the tools and parts area. So we really like using these architecture shelves in the shop here whenever we can. As you can see, half my tools are gone to Mid-Ohio, but typically they would all be shadowed into this area on the right. We've got the good crimpers for doing all the Deutsch Autosport stuff here. We've got a collection of the inserts for them. We've got call them the W style crimpers over here, and then just some other stuff. Like I use these guys, the blue ones here, to do the aim terminals. I don't think it's the right tool, but I'm not having any problem with them, so I'm gonna keep sticking with that because it makes life really easy. And then there's 4 more drawers here. So here we have the all the common crimps and terminals. So DTM, DT, DP terminals there. The Race Spec, what are those called? I call them the Motec terminals. I know those connectors have a real name, but that's not how my brain works really. The AIM terminals and also some smaller ones here. So not every shop will have these, but these let us crimp wires down to 24 or 26 gauge into the AIM PDM connectors, so we can run smaller wires when it's appropriate. A little bit of relay stuff, a little bit of fuse stuff, some resistors that we use to make the blower resistors for the Lotuses, the can sniffing tool, and then some parts store stuff in case we need it. More harness. I call this the harnessing drawer, but zip ties, all these Radlock style connectors here. So these are really nice for connecting power and ground, like a starter or ground to the engine. And we've even started doing stuff like screwing these into an intake manifold and then putting one of these on there for the ground for the engine. And then when you're pulling the engine, it's just a matter of one finger, you take that apart. Terminal covers, a bunch of RTU 125 for sealing stuff up, and then the old label maker and supplies for the new label maker so that we can, I don't know why I used to not stock those things, and I would run out of labels halfway through every project, and then I'd be using the wrong size or the old crappy ones. And so now we have 5 or 6 extra labels. And then this is the least organized drawer here. I kind of got bored before I finished organizing this drawer this weekend, but here is Honda, Toyota, and some generic connectors. So, some things you'll be pretty familiar with, the GT150 3-way connectors with boots and terminals. We've got, we got stamped Motec terminals. We've got all of the different keyways there, including for M-Tron. We've got some more of the ProWire back shells. We've got Ethernet port caps. We've got colored back shells here. We've got black and white back shells. And a little bit of miscellaneous stuff. So you can see back there, we've got all the Autosport. I forget what those called, but the back, I don't know. I'm sure someone will tell me what those are called. But we've got the screws for them in every different size. And we've got, obviously your injector connectors and all the terminals for those. We've got some LS coil stuff that I might have ordered by accident, but now we have it in case we need it. And then lots of Honda cam coil, Toyota 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 throttle, Toyota TPS, Honda Mazda TPS, Mazda alternator, and everything you might need to do the cars we work on the most. And then lastly, we have the sensors and heat shrink drawer. So, 6 or 8 inch strips of all the different kinds of commonly used heat shrink, the clear heat shrink for covering up the labels, a variety of generic sensors. Really like these Honeywell sensors. They're so compact and they've been very reliable. We've had no failures with them. We've also got the nice Honeywell switches here, and then some generic switches for jobs that don't need $40 on-off switches. Some spare sensors there, some spare sensors there. And then lastly, the fiberglass style heat protection. We have both styles here. I haven't really used this too much. We built an LS harness that had the Texaloom on it for where it went past the headers kind of close. But we haven't tested it yet to see how well that worked. I hear it's really good. And then we've got some of the ProWire fiberglass insulation that we will definitely be using a lot of both of these in the Super Lap Battle car, because both the wiring and the plumbing get really close to everything hot in there. And I think that is everything in here. You know what? Never talked about this shelf at all, which is not that important really, I guess. We got some textbooks there. We've got 3D printing supplies there. And when this harness isn't on the table, then we would have it in these bins right here to keep it organized. I guess we've got parts for the Super Lap Battle car. Here we've got parts for the BMW. And this drawer here used to have all my parts, but it's finally done. So it's gone. And that is the FASTx wiring room.